This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, SoundCloud and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.
Thank you. You're far too kind for tuning in once again. Something we like to call the Ball on Blast Podcast. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and I'm joined by my guy, Andrew Webster. Webby, what is good, my dude?
Oh, man. How you doing, Shelly? I mean, it's been, almost a month since the NBA championship was awarded, and we've got nothing to talk about now. We're in the off season, right?
How crazy is it? I swear I feel like I've said this 25 times over since we've been doing this podcast, that sometimes I wondered, I don't know if we'll have enough to talk about each and every week. Well, There's been no games played. Right? Well, actually, Summer League started a couple nights ago.
Yo, and Summer League's nice right now.
It is.
Did you see the kid in Miami, Derek Jones, tonight?
No, I didn't see that. I missed it.
Just pogo sticks, man.
Okay, I got to check it out. I'm in. But, I mean, there's been no games really to talk about, but it's just been craziness since. And obviously last week, the big talk was about our guy, Cuffs the Legend. Cuffs the Legend proving to be correct, right?
He came through again.
And he is doing a victory lap on Twitter. And if you listen to us and you have been following Cuffs the Legend for the past week, you've been enjoying the victory lap that he's been on.
A long victory lap.
Oh, yes. But obviously, he was telling us that LeBron was going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, and he is correct. And it's funny because the way that I think this played out, Webby, might surprise more people, because we assume that there was a deal in place behind the scenes where LeBron had a deal with maybe Paul George, or maybe he had a deal with Kawhi, and we'd see LeBron joining up with someone else to go there, but it hasn't really played out that way, right?
No, LeBron didn't have a deal with any players. LeBron had a deal with Magic Johnson.
Yes.
And that's what seems to be coming out now in these last couple of days after, and I'm sure we'll get to it, all the pieces that the Lakers have added here. Now, the interesting thing with what LeBron did with LA, I think the number one, thing that caught my eye was the amount of years.
Yes.
Three guaranteed, and then a player option, a LeBron option for the fourth. Is that what it is?
Exactly, yeah. It's a 3+1 deal, yeah.
So this is a plan now. So this is something that Magic has thought about, that LeBron has thought about, that their people have thought about, and now it's about putting it into action. And how can you execute what they want to do for the next 4 years to really cement LeBron's legacy in the NBA? And it's still surreal to me that LeBron is going to be on the LA Lakers next year. It's so crazy.
Even though it's something that has been rumored, it's been, kind of like in the backgrounds of the NBA.
I honestly never thought it would happen.
It still just seems weird. It seems like weird Photoshops, right? And obviously we haven't seen him in the jersey, so we are just seeing Photoshops. But I mean, the image of him in the Lakers jersey still doesn't seem like it's going to be a real thing. And it's so odd, but on a level, there's two things. One, exactly what you said. The fact that he signed a 4-year deal, that's massive, because this is the longest commitment we've seen LeBron make to a team since Miami, right? Every time he was with the Cavs, it was a 1-year deal, and then he signed for the 2-year deal, right? So for him to commit, you would assume that, how much more do you think is left in the tank for LeBron James after this 4-year deal?
Well, it's funny because, again, the way that the team is set up, and from the quotes that I was reading today, it's that this is set up to almost prolong his career. Because while we marveled at what he's been doing the last 2-3 years, and especially this season, in the regular season and the playoffs, that's a heavy burden for a guy that age to carry with that many miles on his legs. So
I gotcha.
And so it's really interesting now to see what Magic's next couple of moves are going to be down the road. And I know that we got this whole narrative of the Warriors are playing chess while the rest of the league is playing checkers when they made the move for DeMarcus. But I don't know. This Magic Johnson playing in LA could really have some legs, and we could see the Lakers become one of these super teams in the next 2 years.
It is really interesting, right? And it's good that you mentioned the 2 years, because there's an article written today and today being Thursday, we always tape this podcast most of the time Thursday nights. There's an article that came out today on Thursday by Brian Windhorst and Ramona Shelburne. And I always find these things funny where it's like sources close to LeBron. And it's like, come on, Brian Windhorst, we know your source is LeBron,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Like, you're cool in those circles, but it's great reporting, as always, right, from those two. But a lot of it was about what led to the deals that happened afterwards, right? So a lot of people are talking about the fact we mentioned they didn't get Kawhi, or yet. They haven't gotten Kawhi yet. And they didn't get Paul George. They did, however.
They got Lance and Rondo.
Lance, Rondo, and JaVale McGee. And also Contavious Caldwell-Pope, right? And those are not the high-profile moves that many people were expecting. But as this article dives into, these are kind of moves that, as you said, will prolong LeBron's career. Because they felt like, and it's interesting because it talks about the conversation that LeBron James had with Magic Johnson. And they were talking about different ways of how difficult it was for LeBron last year because he literally had to do everything for his team. Now, a lot of that was LeBron's fault because he built this team in terms of having shooters around him. But the flaw in that was he had to go ham every night because he had to get those guys open shots. In this instance, with getting a guy like Lance can get his own shot. Now, are those always good shots?
No. I love Lance getting his own shot. That's half the fun watching Lance is
for sure
him with the ball in his hands, man.
But he can create a play. Is it always going to be the great play?
No.
I don't know. That's a whole other story. But at least he can create a play. Rondo, obviously we know, especially playoff Rondo, that's a serious playmaker. And I think putting more guys in that role, and who knows if Lonzo Ball's still going to be there. We're not really sure. We'll kind of get to him soon. But it was just adding more playmakers to the roster that can get LeBron easy baskets, but also get other guys baskets. Because there's way too much burden on LeBron the past few years and having to get everyone buckets. Basically, Kevin Love was the only guy that you could just give the ball to and he could score.
Right.
And, that's too much of a burden, especially as you mentioned, LeBron's getting up there in age. They need to get easier baskets from LeBron. And that was really the thought process in getting Rondo and getting a guy like Lance Stevenson, but also Webby, the key part. We talk about it all the time. This thing that you can't measure with statistics, and that's nuts. You're talking about two guys who are not afraid of anything.
Who are
that LeBron can
nuts.
go to battle with.
Yeah, who are crazy, who are nuts. It's great. And almost like when we were going through this with LeBron going to Miami and how he was casted as the villain. A lot of people didn't like that move and the way it was handled. And so LeBron dealt with being the villain for the first time in his career and didn't really know how to wear those shoes. Now with Lance and Rondo, could this be like LeBron entering his villain mode?
I just think too, the way that he was going down against the Warriors, there was no pushback at all, right? Not that they were getting bullied, but we saw Rondo step back in, Draymond's face last year in the playoffs, right? Draymond's talking up, Rondo's not backing down. We already know Lance and his antics, and I feel like LeBron needed a little bit of that by his side during not only the playoffs, but especially against the Warriors. And is this team talented enough right now? No. But is this team done? No.
Hell no.
So that to me is a super interesting part about what's going on. And the bigger storyline from this article is just the plan that LeBron is in on the fact that this isn't about just next year or what happens in this season. It's a long-term plan. And that's why these guys are set up signing one-year deals so that they still have flexibility heading into next season. But also, it's kind of a fail-safe because if they make a couple moves, they lose a couple bodies, right? You can plug in Lance. You can plug in Rondo if you get rid of Lonzo Ball, right? So it gives them some flexibility here, but not the added pressure of, hey, you need to win next year against the Warriors, right?
Absolutely. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be really excited to see once we get the season kicking up again, that if this is the way that this team is going to be kind of built for LeBron, where it's almost like the pieces that they're adding in are going to be to try to get LeBron the ball in the best possible circumstance. Do you think that we're going to see that ratio? I mean, I know that we talked about it a lot of how much speed LeBron was playing at, right? He wasn't playing on the defensive end because he was conserving energy on the offensive end. Now, with with his offensive exertion being scaled back a little bit, where these guys will be trying to get LeBron the ball in the best possible circumstance, do you think now we'll see kind of a LeBron defensive renaissance?
Maybe, and it's so interesting to see, right? Because that could be a part of his game that he adds, and we've seen LeBron, obviously, the chase down blocks. We know what he's able to do there, but it'll be so cool to see LeBron kind of, and I hate saying this because obviously LeBron's a better player than Draymond, but in the Draymond role in terms of, you know, being a defensive captain, so to speak, right? Where he's there for the help defense. He can do that stuff because LeBron is going to extend his career. I feel like LeBron could play 10 more years playing a stretch four, right? Like if Dirk is still playing right now, if Dirk Nowitzki is still in the league signing contracts, basically going from 3-point line to 3-point line, I feel like LeBron could play 10 more years easily if he wanted to, which I don't think he does, but you know what I mean? Like just the way that the game is played now and the physical specimen that LeBron James is in terms of, you know, he takes care of his body, obviously, but he's a big guy and we haven't really seen him play that power forward. But as the power forward position in the NBA has changed to this stretch four, it's going to be so interesting to see how LeBron fits into that on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, quick digression, Dirk Nowitzki, possible Sixth Man of the Year award.
It'll be interesting to see. There's so many fun storylines.
If Dallas can like really pick and choose how they use Dirk, as he like is hitting his early 40s, late 30s here, like I mean, he'd be so dangerous for that team, giving them like 18 minutes off the bench every night, come out and hit like 4 3-pointers.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that'll be totally cool to see how that all shakes down with the Dallas Mavericks because Dirk Nowitzki, yeah, I think he's moving into a bench role this year. They obviously got some young guys. It's kind of the passing of the torch situation, so it'll be definitely cool to see. Not as exciting as what's going on in the Lakers locker room or what could go on in the Lakers locker room, Webby, but I guess that shifts to my next question. Are you worried about having all of these personalities in the Lakers locker room? Would you be worried about that? And with like Luke Walton's still a pretty inexperienced coach, does that worry you?
Yeah, 100%. But it's not. If I was Luke Walton, it wouldn't be Lance or Rondo or even JaVale McGee that I would think that's going to cost me my job. It's LeBron.
Okay.
I don't think that Luke. I mean, that's one thing that really hasn't come out over the last couple of days. I don't even think LeBron has mentioned Luke Walton since joining.
I think the story came out that he hasn't even talked to Luke Walton
yet. That's crazy.
Like I think I saw that story that it hasn't been a thing yet, LeBron and Luke Walton. It's basically been a LeBron and Magic and Rob Pelinka type thing so far. But you bring up a great point, and LeBron will definitely be a focal point. And I feel like people, Lance and Rondo, as much as they get the label of being head cases, I think when they know it's winning time, when they know like, hey, this is the setting to like it's go-getter time, they can focus in. And instead of the focus being on those guys, I think this could have a positive reaction to the young bucks, to the Lonzo and to Kuzma and, all this stuff about who's making diss tracks to each other. I don't really think that stuff's going to fly in that locker room with LeBron, Rondo, and Lance, right? Like, I don't really think that's a thing that's going to happen.
Well, to be fair, Lance has put out a couple of rap singles and some music videos as well.
For sure. But I think there's a big difference between that and making diss tracks about your teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you know what? Right? I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. This is kind of what the Lakers need on, like, steroids. I mean, they needed some veteran leadership, some people that they could really look up to for these young players to really reach their maturity on the court and off. And now they have
some grown-ups in the room.
And now they have the grown-up in the room. So it's got to be put up or shut up time if you're even sticking around.
Are you worried about LaVar Ball and LeBron being kind of like, we've already heard there's talks of someone leaked to Woj that they thought someone in the Lonzo Ball camp, which that to me means LaVar, leaked the fact that Lonzo had knee issues. And so they thought they were doing that to avoid him being in a possible trade package out of LA. we've heard quotes from LaVar, obviously talking about how he thinks the Lakers are going to win a championship now that they got LeBron, and he's taking credit saying that he predicted all of this happening, which he did, by the way. But that's a side note, right? That's a side note. Are you worried about LaVar Ball kind of butting his head in and being a distraction or a problem for LeBron James?
No, because you know what? LaVar Ball, we've talked about this a bunch of times too, is not as dumb as everybody thinks he is. Okay, yes. LaVar Ball knows what side of the bread is buttered, and that would be the side that LeBron James is playing basketball on. So if you want your son to be successful and win a championship with your hometown LA Lakers, I would be keeping LeBron's name out of my mouth unless it was LeBron is awesome and I can't believe he's playing with Lonzo.
Exactly. So
now,
true.
Will he do that? I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that LaVar might not be quite as on the scene as he was earlier on in Lonzo's rookie year.
Also, too, trying to leak that information to keep your son in LA.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's a like above board, like it's a positive political move. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not going to say that it's like how you should do business, but
you gotta do
in terms of being
do.
kind of for your family, and he wants to try to ensure that that Lonzo stays in LA. That's kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, we kind of saw through that as soon as that knee injury news was released, like a week before free agency. It was like, boy, I wonder what this is about.
The one other thing I want to say, too, because people keep talking about how's LeBron going to react to LaVar and all that stuff. And obviously they had a back and forth, I think, last year when LaVar said something about LeBron's kids. And LeBron was like, keep my kid's name out your mouth. All that, right? And I think that there's a line that LaVar probably knows, right? But I also think there's another level to this that hasn't really been talked about in mainstream media. And trust me when I say this, and I want people to listen to me carefully about what I'm about to say. I mean this a lot more in a culture way as opposed to a black and white way. Because I feel like when you say certain things, people think like, oh, this is about black people versus white people. No. I feel like if you understand culture, right, then you understand LaVar Ball a lot more than someone who is not culture. Does that make sense? And and what I mean by that is LeBron James, for example, one of the things he talks about a lot is like a lot of people who grew up like him, they grew up in single parent households. So I think that there's a side to LeBron that kind of understands LaVar on a different level in terms of LaVar being a father and LeBron being able to appreciate the fact that this is a father looking out for his son above all means, by any means necessary.
You think,
right? Is he always correct in how he does it? No. But above all, he's trying to do right for his kids. And he's done so far with his 3 boys, one of them obviously making it to the NBA. And I think that on some level, LeBron understands that. And so while a lot of the media is so quick to be like, LaVar's crazy, LaVar's crazy, LaVar's crazy, I'm quick to say, you don't get culture, you are not culture. So you just write off LaVar. When I think a lot of people, if you have an understanding, it's like, yo, I got an uncle like that. Or I know a dude on my block that's exactly like that. He just talks shit for the sake of talking shit. It's not real. It's not, it's put on. It's like a character. It's like, I got an uncle like that, or that's dude at the barber shop, or am I making sense? Am I explaining this correctly?
You think that LeBron is seeing LaVar more for what he's doing for his kids than as the circus performer that the rest of the media, that the rest of the public
I think
sees?
he understands.
Okay.
I think he understands more of the circus of what LaVar is doing, right? I think he understands the method to the madness behind him, right? And, well, most people just write it off of LaVar saying, my son is the best, blah, blah, blah. We look at it as, well, yeah, of course this guy thinks that his son is the best. And, I know a lot of people whose dads are going to be the first person to be up in the camera being like, my son is the best. He's going to be the best ever. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And in fact, there's a lot of us that wish we had a dad because we didn't grow up with our dad, that would love to have a dad that was like that. And I just think that it's a different line of culture that if you're not a part of, or I don't want to say you're not a part of, but if you don't understand, And again, that's okay if you don't understand it. It's totally fine, right? It's just different. And we all have different backgrounds, different experiences, different ways of coming up. And I feel like if you didn't come up that way or grow up with people who did come up that way, you don't really understand it. Because I feel like a lot of us, when I talk to my boys about LaVar Ball, we just laugh because we're like, oh yeah. Like, I feel like everybody has that guy in their crew that just talks shit.
Not only that, but if you grew up playing organized sports too. It doesn't matter because that's something that I found growing up where I did was something that did cut along cultural lines, you know? So you would, you know, I mean, like you'd be playing with kids from other neighborhoods, you know, for your school or for your club or whatever, and you would get to know the other parents. And of course, whether it was white or black, there was a kid whose dad or mom would be in the ear of the coach. You got to play my son more. My son's the best player in this team. You got to get my son more at bats at the 4-hole. You know, those kinds of parents just exist. Like,
and exactly. And when I'm trying to explain and like tiptoe across the line of talking about black and white and culture, the reason why I'm tiptoeing around it is because, you know, as Webby's saying, as you're saying, Webby, those parents, but maybe the way that they express it is just in a different way.
Exactly.
Right? And like the way that LaVar expresses it is a way that if you're familiar with culture, it makes a lot of sense. And you're just laughing because you're like, this guy's jokes. This guy's hilarious.
That than what was the guy's name? Tom Marinovich, whose dad was just as crazy, but in a way more destructive way to his son's career and his son's psyche, you know? I'd rather a father who's passionate about their kid's success take a little bit of the piss out of it like LaVar does, rather than running his kids into the ground and making them work out every day and putting them on crazy like dietary regimens, workout regimens. I'd rather that kind of positive support. I mean, I think that what happens with LaVar getting treated the way he does by the media, by the mainstream media, is because it's kind of seen as like a jokey or a circus thing. But again, we've talked about it at length. I think that LaVar is way smarter than anybody gives him credit for, and it's in fact taking a lot of the spotlight away from his son so he can succeed in the sport that he loves by making himself the focal point.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, because I feel like you're right in that sense that if Lonzo fails, whatever we deem a failure for someone that makes it into the NBA, a lot of the blame is going to go to LaVar, right? Like everyone's going to be like, oh, LaVar was too much of a problem, blah, 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 right? And it's like, and that's the funny part, but I also feel like that alleviates some of the pressure or the tension on Lonzo. And as what you said, we've talked about LaVar Ball at length, probably too much on this podcast, but LaVar, I do hold a soft spot for LaVar Ball. And I still say, stand by it. Their reality show is really good. It's actually funny. But what I was going to say is we talked about it a lot at length, and I always still find it funny, and I'll end this little part of the Ball family on this point. If you're basing LaVar Ball's ability as a parent on wins and losses, the problem is with
your priorities
right?
are messed
because
up.
if Lonzo does really well and the Lakers win, you're not going to say anything. You're going to be like, oh, great job by LaVar. But if Lonzo struggles, right, and let's say he's out of the league after his rookie deal, you're going to be like, oh, LaVar's a bad parent, which makes no sense at all, right? So anyways, let's move on from that topic. And, you know, one thing, we don't know if Lonzo is going to be involved in a trade package, or the rumors of Kawhi could still be in the works, even though we've seen the proposed rumors for what the Spurs want is completely ridiculous. But one of the things that was mentioned was LeBron James hasn't talked at all since signing this deal, and he doesn't plan to talk until the end of this month at, I think, an event for his school that he has in Akron, Ohio. And that's at the end of this month. And I think that was strategic because it's going to give Magic and the Lakers some time to either trade for Kawhi or make that bigger move so that when they have the press conference, it's not just LeBron by himself, right?
Yeah.
Am I reading that right? That's my assumption.
But as they can also kind of like formulate their plan going forward, we've talked about it, like what they're going to do with this roster and what that next step is going to be about talking to Kawhi and any kind of other free agent trade targets they might have. I saw maybe Dame Lillard, maybe John Wall, maybe a guard that can run point for them. So I think that they're going to wait till it shakes out just a little bit more, and then I kind of have more of a concrete plan when LeBron plans to talk at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm going to find that exact story you were talking about, right? Because it came out yesterday that a number of trade options are being considered by the Lakers executives, Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, and the names that are being bandied about include Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, Bradley Beal, and John Wall, among others.
Get Kevin Love to the Lakers stat.
That would be
awesome.
amazing. That would be amazing. I mean, so there's still a lot of pieces to fall in place. One of those pieces might not be Kawhi Leonard. As the story came out, he might be more open to going to the Clippers. Now, do you think that's just posturing by the Spurs to someone to get that out there, to force the Lakers' hand, to try to make them give up more?
To build a little bit more value on what is quickly becoming, with every Kawhi story, less and less value you have for this guy.
Do you see Kawhi heading to? How do you think this ends? Do you think Kawhi ends up on the Lakers? Seeing as we'll continue our streak, or try to continue our streak, is predicting the future. We were right about LeBron going to the Lakers. We were right about John Tavares going to the Leafs. Shout out.
We were. Did we have Paul George staying in Oklahoma City?
We did not have that. Do we want to go to that? Do we want to go there, or let's get a Kawhi prediction first? Do you think Kawhi ends up with the Lakers by the end of the month?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I think he sticks with the Spurs and he sits out the year.
Okay. Oh, wow. That would be something.
That's what I think.
That would be something.
That's what I think.
I think the Lakers, because Magic needs to make a big move here, Magic needs to do something. He can't just get LeBron in this offseason. That's not enough. I think they do land Kawhi Leonard. That is going to happen. They're going to come to some form of agreement where they get into the middle of whatever the initial package was the Spurs were asking for, which is completely insane, by the way.
I just can't see them getting that kind of a haul.
Yeah, the haul they're looking for is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Like, they wanted, I'm trying to find the tweet here, but it's some form
Ingram,
of
Lonzo, and 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, it was like Lonzo, Hart, Kuzma, and Ingram.
And Ingram, and 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. Like, let's
for a guy who's going to sign there in the offseason.
Yeah. So I see them meeting somewhere in the middle, and yeah, they'll get Kawhi. They'll get the job done. But let's get to Paul George, because that was the thing that we were wrong about. And I must say, Webby, I'm kind of happy that I was wrong about it, because you know me, I love Russ. I'm always Team Russ. I'm going to root for the success of Russell Westbrook and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But also, I love the way that this all went down. And I don't know it was a long weekend in Canada as well, for our American fans. Shout out to, July 4th, but in Canada, it was Canada Day weekend as well. And on Saturday, I was at my buddy's house at a barbecue, right? And when I showed up, the first thing I said to everyone was, I apologize ahead of time, but if you see me and I'm on my phone, I'm just like hitting refresh on Twitter because John Tavares is about to sign with the Leafs, and I need to see what's going to happen with LeBron and what's going to happen with Paul George and all these things, right? So fast forward to about like 11:30, and the first notice came on Twitter that Russell Westbrook was flying back into OKC for a party. And
that's when I knew.
Word is Paul George is on the way. And I was like, hold on, wait, what? He's staying? I was stunned, because last week we were talking about, we thought that was a done deal, Paul George going to the Lakers, but no, the Thunder. Webby, what do you make of the move of Paul George sticking in Oklahoma City and not signing just a 2-year deal, but he signed the same deal as LeBron, right?
Yeah, that's right. And what, 3 years?
3 plus 1, yeah, 3 plus 1 deal.
What I love is the budding bromance between Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Just two guys who couldn't be further from each other in terms of style and what they like to do in their off time.
Yeah.
But just two guys that obviously really get each other. But the big thing is that the Oklahoma City Thunder have the most expensive roster in the NBA. And when you look at that roster, outside of Paul George, Steven Adams, and Russell Westbrook, it's pretty dire.
For sure. So, Yeah, Paul George, the actual numbers of 4-year, 137 max contract to stay with the Thunder. And as you just said, Webby, yeah, their tax bill is hella crazy right now.
Gets them over $300 million after the taxes.
But I will say, though, Webby, there was Bobby Marks, who I think is like the cap strategist for ESPN. He put out the number of what exactly is going to happen, because the assumption is that Oklahoma City is going to buy out or stretch Carmelo Anthony. And if that happens, if they stretch Carmelo Anthony and Kyle Singler, or just release Kyle Singler, that will save them, I want to say like $100 million. Here we are. So mention this in the OKC section, that the $150 million in projected tax bill would shrink to $50 million if the stretch provision is used on Carmelo Anthony and Kyle Singler, a total savings of $120 million in next season, 2018-2019. So
is that the first time you've heard Kyle Singler and Carmelo Anthony's name in the same sentence?
No, because there's probably been ISOs of them sitting on the bench together last year doing nothing for Oklahoma City. Poor Melo, how the mighty have fallen. But this will actually, I think, get kind of more interesting too, because I see Melo, if this happens, I see Melo joining the Lakers.
Wow.
That would be fun. I think that would be fun, man. I don't know. The NBA again, and I know we're going to get to Boogie Cousins in a second, but I'm here for this. And I know that I'm the Russell Westbrook supporter. So, you know, I get branded with that label in my thoughts on OKC. But I see them being a good team next year, right? Like, it'll be year 2 of Paul George and Russell Westbrook playing with each other. And I think a big part here is that the part that's being overlooked is I was told for about 2 years how bad of a teammate Russell Westbrook is. And here's a guy in Paul George who's deciding, you know what? I'm not going to go back to my hometown in LA and play with LeBron James. I'm going to stay in Oklahoma City and play with Russ because I believe in Russ and I want to play beside Russ. And I'm just waiting to hear all the naysayers that were so quick to jump on Russell Westbrook's back for the past how many years about how terrible of a teammate he is, right? Like, I don't understand that. If he's such a terrible teammate, why did Paul George stay?
I mean, I'm on that same train as you. I don't think Russell Westbrook's a bad teammate at all. Mm-hmm. I think that what he demands from the guys on his team and what he puts on the floor every single night is something that inspires teammates.
For sure.
It's just, you know who they need is, and it sounds crazy, and I don't know however they might be able to land a guy like this, but they need Blake Griffin.
That would be amazing. That would be interesting. That would be crazy. He would cost you so much money, and you'd be back into that crazy tax bill.
He's just owed so much. There'd be no way to get him, but he would be a good fit on how they're crafting this team, I think.
He would be, but the one thing I worry about is you're now relying on him to be healthy, which is something he hasn't been in a long, long time. That's the one thing I'd worry about. But a healthy Blake Griffin on that team, that'd be super interesting. The one thing I want to say, though, too, as well, that I found super interesting in Paul George making this decision to stay in Oklahoma City rather than going to LA is, I think an interesting part of this is if you pay attention to what happens to LeBron James sidekicks, right? And a lot of people talk about, you know, are you worried about LeBron the leader, you know, when he's putting out the Arthur fist, or, you know, if he's subbing you on Twitter, like he's subtweeting you on Twitter or talking about you in the media or whatever, all those things, right? And we know that that comes with a lot of baggage. But I think the biggest issue in playing alongside LeBron James is if the Lakers lose, it's the supporting cast's fault, right? Yeah. And I think that was a thing that obviously Kyrie got tired of, that Kevin Love talked about was a huge thing for him to get used to dealing with. But if that team loses, the LeBron side pieces get the blame. Whereas in Oklahoma City, if we remember, Paul George played horribly in that last game, well, in that series against the Utah Jazz. Paul George got outplayed by Joe Ingles, right? Joe Ingles was killing him.
Yeah,
and yet most of the blame still fell onto Russell Westbrook. Right?
That's what you get for being the face of your franchise.
But I just mean, I think if you're Paul George, to me, it's like you either go to LA and get blamed for losing to the Warriors, or you can stay in OKC, ride with Russ, and, Russ gets the blame. And I know that someone told me that that's a loser mentality, right? Because you're thinking about what happens if you lose and who's going to get the blame. But I'm just saying, like, in the sense of who would you rather be a sidekick beside, right? Like the guy in terms of Russell Westbrook, who is going to take all the bullets for you, or the guy LeBron James, who whatever he does, we know the media is pushing narratives in his favor all the time.
Well, that's the other thing too, just the media.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Oklahoma City's got a good team, but it's not like being on the Lakers with LeBron James, where every day you're going to be on ESPN,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's such a massive thing. The other thing, too, I don't know if LeBron, I'm sure LeBron probably could have had a better party in LA and maybe with the bigger artists, but I thought it was kind of cool how that was set up, that they had Nas ready for that performance in Oklahoma City. And did you see the shots and the video of PG and Russ with the cigars, Nas performing? They had a nice crowd in attendance. That looked like a lot of fun. That was pretty cool, man. That looked really, really cool.
I'm just happy for my friends in Oklahoma City. That was one decision away from becoming a really bad situation for a little while, especially because after Paul George left, then what happens with Russ? Do you try to trade him? But now they've got that unit moving forward, and that crowd, those fans down there, they pour everything they have into the Thunder. So I'm happy that that's kind of a feel-good story.
It's also kind of cool for other small market teams, right? And I know the Raptors aren't a small market, but I think it kind of fits that bill just because of, the fact that you're in another country. I think optics-wise, the Raptors are a small market, right?
Yeah.
And I think it gives a win to, I guess, the non-traditional NBA big markets in the sense that, hey, you can win here, right? Like you can, if you run your organization properly, you can hold on to your free agents, right? And I think that's a really good sign for a lot of other teams that, in that instance where everyone thought Paul George was done, as your man Sam Presti was quoting a Tribe Called Quest.
Scared money don't make none.
Right? That was amazing. But the point is so true, right? He took the chance while everyone said, well, you're going to get him for 1 year. He took the chance on that 1 year, bet on his organization, bet on his superstar in Russell Westbrook, and he won.
Came out the winner, absolutely.
That's amazing. That is so cool. I'm happy for Oklahoma City. I think they'll do well. They'll surprise people next year and have a much better season as they figure out how to play with each other more, as Paul George gets more confident and more comfortable in that situation playing alongside Russ. Melo won't be there as well.
So they Melo. Yeah, I was just going to say.
But I think that the expectations that they had of Melo kind of messed things up, right? Because they were going under they're going into the situation as if Melo was Melo. Yeah. And he was their third option and their third scorer and a reliable scorer and someone that they would depend on. And I think once you remove that expectation, that allows an avenue for someone else to step up, to get more minutes, to maybe bring more on the defensive end and contribute in other ways. And it's like, no, we need PG and Russ to go ham every day, and along with Steven Adams. And you know what? Jeremy Grant, you can be in the lineup. You can hit those open shots. You can play defense. You can be a better defender than Melo was. Roberson's going to come back and be healthy. Don't sleep on OKC. Don't just sweep them under the rug. That's all I'm saying. Happy they're back. The flip side to that, Webby, as I mentioned the Raptors a little bit, should Raptor fans be as excited as they seem to be that LeBron has left the East and jumped to the Western Conference?
Yes, absolutely.
So, hold on. Should they be as happy now with their team and kind of run it back, thinking, well, LeBron's not there, so now we just got to worry about the Sixers and Celtics? Or should they still be making moves to try to shake things up on their roster?
You should always be trying to make moves and put up the best. Running again, we've talked about that. We're running back this same Raptors roster. I think that it's still going to result in a similar outcome in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I agree with you. They really need to find a way to be able to get something back from Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, as currently constituted, I still don't think the Raptors are better than the Sixers. I don't think the Raptors are better than the Celtics. I don't I think the Raptors are, not that Washington is good, but I feel like Washington played them a lot tighter than they should have last year in the playoffs.
Pacers got better.
Pacers got better. The Bucks will be better with better coaching. Like, I don't know, man. It's not going to be just this thing where LeBron leaves and now the Eastern Conference is ours, so run it back. I think I agree with you, Webby. They do need to do something to mix up their core a little bit. We saw that might not be DeMar as did you see that video of the fan?
Yeah, he was like, come to L.A., and he goes, hell nah.
That was kind of cool. But we know DeMar rides for Toronto, which is pretty cool, right? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've made our appreciation of DeMar DeRozan pretty clear here. And to move him from this team would take a lot getting back. And he obviously doesn't want to leave, I don't think. They're paying him a lot of money to play basketball here. And he loves the team. So I got no problem with having DeMar on the squad going into next year.
So true, Webby. So true. And, we've been going for over a half hour now, and we have not mentioned the Golden State Warriors.
And
I don't know if it's
craziest move.
the craziest move or the most shocking move of the week was the fact that the Golden State Warriors, yes, that Golden State Warriors team that has won back-to-back NBA championships, 3 of the last 4 NBA championships, a team that starts 4 All-Stars, added DeMarcus Cousins.
Added a 5th All-Star.
Yes, for the league minimum, as Boogie Cousins signed a 1-year deal at the league minimum or the veterans minimum, whatever was it the mid-level exception?
I think it was 5.5 mil from 1 year.
Boogie Cousins is now a member of the Golden State Warriors, and there were hot takes like on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Is Golden State ruining the NBA? Other people saying they're the greatest organization ever. Where do you fall in this whole debacle of Boogie Cousins joining the Golden State Warriors?
Okay, so I'm in 2 minds. The first is of anybody in the NBA that I never thought to see join the Warriors is Boogie. We know that he doesn't really like Draymond. He doesn't like Kevin Durant. He talks shit to all the Warriors all the time. He's called them corny. He's with us and thinking that the Warriors are corny.
Yes.
And so to see him now join the Warriors for this limited amount of time, you might think, I'm shocked. On my other side of my brain, this is the best move Boogie Cousins could have possibly made. Not just for his financially or basketball wise, but personal. Like teams, when he becomes a free agent next year, are going to take what he did here into account, and it's going to be a big positive for him.
Yeah, he's betting on himself, and also there's no pressure on him now, right? Like if he goes to another team that might be struggling, that like needs him, right? He's got to hurry up and come back, and there's going to be pressure on him to perform. And the talk is going to be, is he the same Boogie Cousins that's putting up 20 and 10? Well, on the Golden State Warriors, we know he's not going to put up 20 and 10. So that pressure is eased off. Obviously, all assumptions are that the Golden State Warriors are going to win an NBA championship. And now you got to put that respect on his name if that happens as an NBA champion, the same way that it's rebuilt a lot of different personalities that are known to be a little off the wall here. We're talking Swaggy P. We're talking JaVale McGee, right? Like you've had to make those guys NBA champions now. And so if you're Boogie Cousins and you look at the opportunity to be able to do that while you're rehabbing and the pressure's not on you to rush back because obviously they don't need you, right? It's a very good look for Boogie Cousins. So I'll say this. I understand the move that Boogie Cousins makes in the same way that I understand the move that Kevin Durant made in joining the Golden State Warriors. On the same token, though, I think it's lame as hell. And I think it's super corny in the sense that, and I'm saying this as, we're talking as basketball fans, right? And we're talking about people who played sports and sports is competition and all that. So to me, it's super lame because Boogie Cousins, that if you're healthy, they don't need you. Yeah. Just like Kevin Durant, I know that Kevin Durant's won Finals MVP the past 2 years, and I get all that, but Golden State didn't need you to win a championship. They were champions before you joined their team. They were a 73-win team that's arguably one of the best teams in the NBA's history before you came. So they didn't really need you, right? So in sense of people who play sports, people in competition, as a fan of basketball, it's a whack move. If I take a step back and look at the business side of it, I understand why Kevin Durant did this, and I understand why Boogie Cousins did this. But I like to think that I can also think that they're lame moves. Is that fair,
For
Webby?
sure.
Does that make sense?
For sure. I really do think Boogie's choice makes a little more sense to me than Kevin Durant's did. Because like Kevin Durant came within one game of taking down the Warriors with the Thunder and then dropped that team to go and join the team that he couldn't beat. Meanwhile, Boogie's just never played in the playoffs. And it's not like he's signing there for the rest of his career. This is just to get himself healthy, get himself a taste of the playoffs, see what he can do, show his skills to a bunch of coaches in the league that he can kind of play ball with a team like this. And then after his year, I'm sure he'll go somewhere to the next super team that needs him. Probably even the Lakers.
Who knows, right? I mean, and again, business-wise, I understand both moves. Competition-wise, as a fan of basketball-wise, it's totally lame. And, you know, that narrative gets cluttered a little, right? And the narrative that you heard this week about, you know, everyone's mad at Golden State for ruining basketball. I don't think they ruined basketball because to me as a fan, like, you need that hero and villain type thing, right? Like you need someone to root for or someone to root against. And Golden State gives me something to root against. So like, I don't think they ruined basketball, right? The NBA has always been a league that's dominated by a few teams anyways. It's always been the way the NBA has run, right? So all the people that are talking about how if this era of basketball is bad for the NBA, I don't really think you've been following the NBA for that long, right? Because here's a good tweet here from Tim Bontemps on Twitter. And he says, the NBA has been around for 72 seasons. The Celtics and Lakers have won 33 of the titles. 5 teams have combined to win 50. 8 have combined to win 59 of them. Right? So if you think about it, the history of the NBA has always been, you know, top heavy. Yeah. Cool. I get that. I'm not even mad at that. I should be allowed to say that I want to cheer for this team or I want to root against this team. Like that's what being a fan is. What I'm not here for, though, is the changing of what actually happened. It's the revisionist history, right? So everyone's talking about how Golden State's front office is so great and how they've like, if you want to do what Golden State did, well, be better. That's the part that I think is not really that simple, right? Because the part that everyone leaves out, okay? If we go back in time to the Golden State Warriors team when a young Steph Curry, okay? They draft Steph Curry, cool, give them all the credit. Other teams passed on them. That's not their fault. Cool, great. They get Steph Curry. Steph Curry was injury prone for basically his entire rookie contract. Steph Curry then signs a contract that at the time, a lot of people thought they were giving him way too much money because he hadn't proven that he was able to be healthy for a full season. But then on top of that, he then turns into Steph Curry, right? Becomes 2-time MVP, and you're paying him like $9 million,
well,
right?
Not only that,
that's a fluke, right? That's not something that, you know, I'm sitting here giving them the Bob Myers credit for being this genius. Like you can't say, well, draft well and then hope that that same player gets hurt so that you get a bargain of a deal, but then he outplays that contract. Like you can't say that. You can't pat Bob Myers on the back for that.
Well,
can you?
I wouldn't say just the Steph Curry thing, but the drafting of Klay Thompson when you did and getting and hitting Draymond in the second round has done so much for that team in terms of freeing up what they had to pay Draymond to what they could pay other players to come in. I mean, and like, listen, yes, you could say, well, be better, or, you know, they lucked into this, they lucked into that. But, man, that is some really great drafting.
It is great drafting, and I'm not taking anything away from the drafting that they've done, but everyone's like, they drafted 3 Hall of Famers. And it's like, okay, I think you're overvaluing the fact that, or you're undervaluing the fact that these three guys are able to be these three guys because of the situation. Like, they're in a Hall of Fame situation where Steph Curry doesn't get to be Steph Curry unless his backcourt mate is Klay Thompson, who's an A-plus defender who allows Steph to not have to guard the other team's point guard, right? Klay Thompson is able to get off and get his points. Klay Thompson's not Klay Thompson if he's on the Hornets playing with Kemba Walker, right? Because you can't double team Steph Curry because Klay Thompson's sitting there in the corner just to splash open threes. Why does he get those open threes? Well, because he plays with a guy like Draymond Green, who's a point forward, and a guy like Steph Curry, who can shoot from anywhere on the court. So you can't double team. These three pieces just work so well together. And so to say they drafted three Hall of Famers, it's like,
yeah, but listen, man.
Okay, yes,
but
it's
you got
true.
to draft the players. You got to draft the players who play well together.
For sure, but we're forgetting the fact that they were really building their team around three dudes: Andre Iguodala, David Lee. We don't remember that. We're not patting Bob Myers on the back for that pickup, are we? And Andrew Bogut. Those are the three highest paid players on their team. And they ended up being lucky that Steph Curry got hurt, and they had Steph Curry at that low-level contract because that's the only way that all those other pieces fit into place. Then add in the fluke of the NBA's Players Association saying that they wanted all of the TV deal money in that same year, which gave a little extra money. And on top of that, you can say, well, they had extra money to sign Kevin Durant, but you also had to be lucky enough that you would have a superstar. And I'd love to hear another example of a superstar that has done this, because I can't think of one off the top of my head. But another superstar that would be willing and able to leave the only organization he's known after blowing a 3-1 lead to a team and then joining that exact same team. That's a certain character trait of a person that I don't really know many other superstars that would have done that. And so did all of this stuff happen? Cool. But I'm not going to give them all the credit for putting this whole organization together when, let's be serious, did Bob Myers get Kevin Durant, or did Draymond call Kevin Durant in the parking lot after they lost to the Cavs in the finals and said, we need you to beat LeBron?
Listen, I really appreciate your Warriors hate. I really do, because I hate the Warriors as well. But you can. Yes. This is some sour grape stuff here. All right.
Oh,
this
definitely.
What they've done over the last 8 years, 7 years, has been nothing short of amazing. They've turned their franchise from a small market, barely relevant team whose greatest achievement, well, I mean, they had won an NBA championship. Their greatest achievement in the past 20 years would be upsetting the Dallas Mavericks in a first-round playoff matchup. Okay?
For sure.
In 7 years, they've turned this team into a juggernaut. Now, I agree with you. They got lucky here and there, but it really started with drafting those three guys. And to be able to recognize the talent and scout the talent of those three guys, understanding what you're putting together, not pulling the trigger on the Klay Thompson for Kevin Love deal that was out there when this team was still in its infancy. These are all great moves by the management of that team, and you can't take it away from them.
Everything you just said, Webby, is totally true. And my biggest point in all of this, right, isn't necessarily to take shots or to take away from the Golden State Warriors. It's more taking away from the media, who conveniently leaves out all these other factors that played into the success that the Warriors have had, and just to say things like, well, other teams mad at Golden State, be better. It's like, it's a lot more complicated than that, right? It's not just draft well. Like, there are a lot of other things. Like, you need Kevin Durant, in a lot of people's opinion, in my opinion, and I guess in the opinion of a person that feels the need to create burner accounts to chirp fans, you need to find a superstar that has that mindset that he says, I'm going to leave the team that I was just riding with and join the team that just beat me, that I just blew a 3-1 lead to. You need to find a superstar that is willing and able to do that. And there's not many of those guys around. And so I'm not going to give them all the credit for that, when really Kevin Durant played a huge role in that, right? Draymond begging him to come plays a huge role in that. Again, we talked about the cap flexibility brought on by that CBA. We talked about Steph getting hurt and being signed at a lower cost. Those are
But
all
Shelly,
massive factors, Webby, that also like huge factors that add into, just
Shelly,
draft well.
why
That's like,
stop there? Okay, you had your rival for the next 10 years trade one of their three pieces to the Houston Rockets for almost nothing. You had a Spurs team in your same conference continue to age, and now their superstar for the next generation has been shelved and probably won't be there anymore.
Well, in that year that the Golden State Warriors won their first title, right? That was the year that Kevin Durant was hurt, so they didn't have to go through OKC that year. And we know that every single year that Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were healthy, OKC made it to the conference finals, right? So there's a lot of things that we forget along the way. And I only bring that up to say, how many times have you heard, well, LeBron's championship in Cleveland, well, they only won because Draymond was suspended. And that really helped them to the 3-1, to come back from being 3-1 down. You've heard that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Compare that to how many times you've heard, well, the first Golden State championship, they only really won because Kevin Love and Kyrie were hurt. Nobody says that. You never hear anybody say that.
What about the fact that Houston upset the Clippers there in Game 6, totally stole Game 6. It should have been Clippers-Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, right? Instead of the Warriors being able to step right over a Rockets team that wasn't quite where the evolution of their team has them now.
Exactly. And hey, I say all that to say this, okay? Of course, if you listen to this podcast, if you know me, you know I think the Warriors are corny. They're the team I root against, but I'm an NBA fan. I'm a ball fan. So at the same time, they are a great team. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, it's amazing watching them play basketball at a very high level. To me, it's the other things that people conveniently leave out. And it's the same people who were probably Miami Heat fans a couple years ago, same people who were Laker fans before that. We all know those dudes, right? That are there to stand for whatever the new wave is, right? Cool. No problem. I understand that. That's just not me. And we're both allowed to exist and like or dislike certain things, but we can appreciate the love of basketball. My thing is, don't leave out the facts of other things that happened and don't make it as simple as, well, just draft well. There's a lot more to that. It's like if the Raptors magically, Fred turned into Steph, DeLon Wright turned into Clay, and Draymond is Pascal. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy what happened. There's a lot of other factors that would need to go into play for that to happen with the Toronto Raptors. You know what I mean? And it's not as simple as, well, they drafted
what also helps?
And they have a winning culture. It's no, the best player in the league decided I'm going to join their team. That has nothing to do with their GM or how good their GM is. You know what also helps? What?
Drafting well.
I'm just saying, I guess it's the age-old adage, you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good.
Okay.
I just want to hear a lot more about the luck factor than just how great they are. I just want to hear a lot more of that mentioned as well.
I don't think you win 73 games by just being lucky.
No, but you get Kevin Durant by being lucky.
Or do you get Kevin Durant by winning 73 games?
Well, no, you get Kevin Durant by being lucky that he blew a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors and then says, "Yeah, I want to join that team." Who else would do that? That's the thing. Yeah. That's still the thing that, hey, someone needs to explain to me, where else in basketball or in NBA circles that or in sports that would fly or that would be cool or we've seen anything remotely close to that. Blowing a 3-1 lead, leaving the only organization you've known to join that team that just beat you. I don't know.
All right, we got to move on before the Warriors fans come after us.
Oh, my Golden State hate will not end. So, hey, that's that. But we will move on to, I guess, someone who also shouts out the Golden State Warriors a lot, in our Ask on Blast segment.
This would be one of your fans that you're talking about here.
Yes. One of the teams that he cheers for, Mr. Aubrey Graham, also known as Drizzy Drake, released an album. And, of course, we got to talk about that in our Ask on Blast segment. Webby, Scorpion, have you taken in the Scorpion album?
I have.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Andrew Webster?
I've got a question for you, Shelley.
Okay.
Is Drake a rapper or is Drake a singer?
Drake is a musician.
No, he's not. Drake does not play any instruments. Drake is not a musician.
I tried to cheat there, and you got me, Webby. You got me. I tried to cheat.
I would give you that Drake is an artist.
Drake is an artist. Yes, thank you.
But if you had to put him into one box, rapper or singer, what box would you put him in?
Drake is a pop star.
No, that's not one. I got two boxes.
He's a singer. He's a singer.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. I got it. He's a vocalist. How about that?
Okay.
I'm just trying to cheat here. I'm not lying to you.
As you said, Drake is a singer.
Okay.
And he is a much better singer than he is a rapper. And that's what Scorpion has showed me.
Interesting.
The first half of this album is absolute garbage. and it's like the personification of everything that Pusha T was talking about in his diss record. His raps are dumb.
Yeah.
Those beats on the rap songs on the rap side are awful and horrendous and boring. There's nothing going. The song with Jay-Z is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
You know what?
The whole first half of the second half of this album, it would be in my top 5 so far.
Wow.
Dude, there's a run on this album that goes from like Ratchet Birthday Party to I've Got You in My Feelings or whatever. It's It's like a 4-track stretch.
That's a song with the OBJ dance that's like going viral right now, right? Where all these kids are just doing the dance. It's like, CC, do you love me? Like that song?
Yo, yeah. Dude, and it's got the other single that came out that I like, the Nice for What?
Yeah.
It's got that little sample where he uses Future as well. Dude, the second half of this album is major league. That Ratchet Birthday Party beat it's probably the best beat I've heard this year. I mean, it's fantastic. And the other thing is, you didn't really like. I kind of like that whole like passion fruit vibe that he had on the album before.
Yeah,
I like that, and I think that's why I like this second half of the album so much. But like, listen, Drake has to stop rapping. Like he has to, he has to put it down. People,
what about rapping on featuring tracks?
No, maybe on the sure, once in a while you could do a feature, but man, like you're not a rapper. You're not a good rapper. You're rapping with this high-pitched, whiny voice. Your flow's the same on every song. Your beats are boring, okay? I want to hear good rappers. I want to hear Kendrick. I want to hear Chance. I want to hear Push. I want to hear Nas. I want to hear shit. I'll listen to Kid Cudi.
You haven't even mentioned Jay, and I'm hurt by that, Webby.
Well,
I'm hurt that you haven't mentioned Jay.
That's because I'm very disappointed in what he offered up on that trash song. It's awful. It's awful. It's brutal, and I was like, I'm there. I was listening to it the last 2 or 3 days. Yeah. I was like, shit, I gotta be listening to this, and it was such a struggle to get through the rap part, man. And it was like, I was like, this is everything that I hate about what Drake's trying to do. It's like complete fake tough guy, what you're gonna flip the switch on people? What you're gonna come out the car shooting? Like, are you joking me? This is, but then as soon as the second half of the album, I was like, all right, like this is a wing, and musically, sonically, they're night and day. Like when they get into singing Drake, those beats are amazing.
So, Webby, you said so much there that was so amazing that I agree with a lot of what you said. There's so much there that I had to write down certain points. So follow me for a second here, right? You talked about the second part of the album, right? And I will say that is a point that I've heard from a lot of people, that they enjoy the second half of that album. And when I heard that it was the R&B side or the R&B side, let's say, I was kind of like, really? Like, am I going to like that? And you're right. Towards the end of that, there's a run on there where it's beautiful music, right?
It sounds so different and cool and summertimey.
So there's a lot of things, right? We know that Drake's camp is really good in terms of, I'm talking the Party Next Doors, the Majid Jordan or whatever that dude's name is. Like his camp in terms of the production team behind the R&B side is really, 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 really dope, right? But beyond that, Drake just makes great songs. And the reason why I had such a tough time answering your question is because I came to the realization a while ago that Drake isn't really a rapper, but he's not even interested in really being a rapper. He's just a rapper by name because that's technically the box that people aim to put black artists in mainstream music, right? And I'm talking like the Grammys and like dumbass shit like that, right? They want to put you in this box, and the box they're going to put you in is rapper or R&B or whatever, where Drake is bigger than that. Drake, and why I use the term pop star, like that's what's out there for like Beyonce's and Taylor Swift's and Katy Perry's and whatever. Drake makes dope music. That has never been an issue for me, you know, in being able to admit that. And I think what you're saying on the second half of that album, we hear a lot of that. The beats are fire. It's like soulful, like dope ass music. Now, you're talking about the rap side, okay? My thoughts on the first half of that album, I thought there are some beats that knock, some beats that are okay, but his flow on them isn't really that good, but more so, I don't think he's saying anything on any of these tracks, and that's more of my issue, right? And I think that's more the issue with, if you're of a certain age, we're still kind of like pining for what hip hop was to us. And I don't want to sound like the old man, even though I am the old man, but what I mean by that is hip hop was different, right? Like what people were talking about, like the reason why I love the hip hop that I love is because there was something to say. It was aspirational. It was inspirational, right? Like it was motivating. Like there was a message behind it. It was trying to get you to like better yourself or better your life or better your situation. It wasn't just all about, okay, smashing girls and popping bottles and whatever. And I get that. But now all hip hop or all rap music in 2018 is surrounding either doing drugs, being super depressed, or popping bottles. And that's it. There's no real like aspirational message or meaning behind it, right? And you kind of lose some of the art form. And I feel like we get it in like such small doses. And so when we do, that's why, you know, people rep so hard for J. Cole. That's why his stans rep for him so hard. That's why what Kendrick does is such a big deal, and why Kendrick is on such a massive platform. That's also why people are so mad at Kanye in 2018, right? Because when Kanye came out, right, Kanye was saying something.
Yeah, and he had a chance to really say stuff when this new album came out, and he just didn't. It was way more personal than it was outwards.
Exactly. So Drake is only really making rap songs, I think, because when he makes albums, he's making albums for a different reason, right? I think he's making albums because he's trying to cast the widest net possible to say, I think he even has a song where the hook is, you know, your grandma likes this, or your wifey likes this, your brother likes this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he's trying to cast the widest net possible in saying, hey, dudes will listen to my album. They'll find a couple tracks on my album that they like. I'll have a couple tracks for the men dem. I'll have a couple tracks for the girls, obviously. I'll have the top 40 tracks. I'll have the songs that you can play on adult contemporary radio, you know? And I think that that's what he's trying to do with these albums, and that's why they're so long, because he's literally trying to get on everybody's playlist in your family.
Yes.
Right? Your playlist, your girl's playlist, your mom's playlist. He's trying to do that. And so we're used to an era where an album, you sit there and you listen cover to cover. That's not the era anymore. Right? And we almost got to let that go if that's what your expectations are. That's what I think the biggest issue is. Do I like the album overall? I don't know. I need more listens. Nothing really like jumped out at me. The hip hop side, the rap side, sorry. Again, there were some tracks that were okay, but I felt left wanting more, right? Like I expected more. Like if I'm told this is the top rapper in the game, and again, it sucks because that's the term that he's plugged into because of the way the boxes are set up industry wide. If I'm told you're the top rapper in the game, I need better bars on some of these beats.
Way better.
You mentioned
bars.
The J track. We've heard some of my favorite tracks of Dre and Drake. Wow, and tongue twister there. Jay and Drake right? They have some legendary tracks together. To me, like if you talk about Light Up, which was on Drake's first album, what was the one? Pound Cake,
Yeah.
which is just like straight fire. Like these guys have songs to me that are dope. Like Pound Cake, I love that track. That song on Scorpion, yeah, that's not that good.
No,
I did
man.
not like that.
And it's
I
so
felt bad
weird
listening
because
to it.
usually Jay, that's what he's made for, are these features
Yeah.
on other people's albums or remixes, and both of them just come so flat, and it's no, I'm like erasing the first half of this album and only keeping it as a R&B singer album. Because
Yeah,
man,
I definitely got to give it more listens, but overall, my biggest takeaway after I was done listening to it, Webby, I'm going to say this straight up, and I know a lot of people will be like, what the fuck? But after I listened to this album, I'm like, this reaffirms that my favorite album of the year so far is still Nipsey Hussle's Victory Lap.
oh,
That's still my favorite album of the year so far.
Oh, no,
yeah.
no. Mine,
And I mean, I liked a bunch of different albums. Like I liked the Nas album, I thought was good.
Yeah.
Not great, but it was okay, right? There's still some songs that I like on that album. I didn't like the Kanye album. Not really down with the Kanye Cudi album.
Daytona.
I like Pusha T still getting bumped hard. I love that album.
If you know, you know.
Right? So
The other
there's
one
some things
is
here.
the Black Thought,
Yep.
Black Thought put out like a 6-7 track album that's just insanity.
And I still got to take in the J-Rock album.
Yeah,
I got to
I
take
hear
that
that's
in.
amazing.
I haven't fully taken it in yet.
I hear
I've
that's
heard it's
amazing.
really good. I've heard good things. But the one question I have for you, going back to Drake for a second here, I heard a lot of people listen to this, and at the end of it, they said, well, where's the banger? There's no banger on this, right? Or there's no like big time track on this. And again, I just want to emphasize a point I made earlier about albums are made completely differently nowadays. And part of that is he released the bangers way before the album came out.
I was going to say, Nice for
Right?
What and God's Plan are the bangers, but they've been out for 3 months.
Exactly. So when we're listening to the album and we're waiting to hear what the next banger is, it's not really there. But in the context of just putting out an album, imagine if, midnight last Thursday, when did it come out? Thursday at midnight?
Thursday at midnight.
So imagine if that was the first time we heard Nice for What?
Oh,
Right? Like just bump through your speakers at like, I don't know what time it would have been if you listened to it straight through, but like 12:25 or whatever, right? Like that would have been Friday would have been crazy. Everyone bumping Nice for What?
For me-
Because that track is fire. That sample is dope as fuck.
for me, it was yesterday at 5:25 listening to Ratchet Birthday Party. I finally slogged through all this hip hop and I got to this amazing sample, amazing beat. One of the best songs of the summer, I think. It's so good.
So good. I mean, there's some songs on there that are super dope, super good songs, but overall as an album, I don't really think it's a good album, but I also think that he's not trying to make albums
He's trying to make
for
playlists.
me in the traditional way that I consume albums. I put on Watch the Throne last night, I was flicking through music and I was like, oh, I haven't listened to this in a while. And bam, cover to cover, it was just on. And
good.
And it reminded me of, okay, the reason why that works as an album is because it all kind of fits together, all kind of sounds the same, right? Like there's a, what Kanye labeled it, luxury rap kind of feel to it, right? Like it all kind of feels the same, like it's on the same wavelength.
It's of one.
Yes. And albums nowadays don't really get made like that, or at least Drake doesn't put out albums like that anymore.
I would say Drake.
He's trying to make albums to be on everybody's playlist. At least you have a song from that album that will be on your playlist.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is.
That's a great point.
So yeah. I mean, hey, but again, people, let us know what you think. Hit us up. Let us know what you think of Drake's album. Let us know if you despise the Warriors as much as I do. And again, I want to emphasize, as much as I despise the Warriors, They did not ruin the NBA. I'm here for it. You need heroes and villains in sports. Like, that's just the way that we consume sports, and we like sports. You like to root for the good guys and bad guys, cops and robbers, whatever, right? Like, it's entertainment.
That's it.
I love it. I'm here. I'm entertained. As much as I might diss KD, I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like in awe of him pulling up from half court and hitting dagger 3-pointers to win it. I got nothing to do but applaud that, because that is gangster. So we love the NBA. Obviously, you do too if you're listening to a Ball on Blast podcast. And so if you do and you have something to say to Mr. Webster, where can they hit you up with?
You can give me all your hot Johnny Tavares takes at a Webster84 on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me on Twitter, still following Cuffs the Legend, still tweeting out Leafs wave emojis. You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, also on YouTube. If you want to watch some videos, some video content, at Sheldon Alexander. So we got you covered here on the Ball on Blast podcast, and we're going to keep going as long as there's stuff to talk about in the NBA. We're going to be here. And if there's not stuff to talk about in the NBA, we're just going to do the normal On Blast podcast where we just talk about sports or music and culture. Maybe stuff happens in other sports. Who knows? But we're going to talk about it because we're here for you, as always, unpolished and unapologetic. We are the Ball on Blast podcast. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.